Hello everyone, this is In-Game Arts with another boxing of the offline product game review. This is Metro Redux for the PlayStation 4, but being played and tested on my PlayStation 5. Now just before we go into it, I want to point out that this Metro Redux is a collection of 2 games on one disc. These games contain is Metro 2033 Redux as well as Metro Last Light Redux, all on one disc, and as well as that this does include all DLC content for both Metro 2033 as well as Metro Last Light on the disc as well. So this is the complete package of both Metro 2033 and Metro Last Light all on one disc, which is extremely nice to see. As well, I do want to point out that this collection contains both games and you have to install both games at the same time. You cannot pick and choose which one to install. They come together, so you cannot pick one of the 2 games. You have to install both games as they are one package together. So just keep that in mind if you're only interested in playing one of the games. But as I said, since they're together, that means when there is an update, that means that their version number is tied together. And the version number on disc is just based on the version of the game, so it's 1.0. So both games are treated as 1.0. But sadly, there was an update available, but the size update was only 25 megabytes big and will take you to version 1.02 since the time I make this video. Now, it only said stability fixes. Now, like always, I play all my games completely offline with an unregistered account, and I haven't experienced any massive game-breaking bugs or issues. I did have some minor hiccups, and I will get into it in a second, but the overall package worked the beginning and end with little to no problems, and I was able to fully beat the game offline with no updates. And as well, I was still unlocking trophies with my unregistered account. So this is a great complete package of Metro 2033 as well as Metro Last Light all on one disc. It's extremely nice, fully functional, fully playable, and fully beatable, as well as you get all the extra content on disc. Extremely amazing package. Now, I also want to point out that this game does run at 60 frames per second for both games with little to no stuttering or issues, as well as that this game loads insanely fast. For the time point when this game came out, the game loads up so fast, it almost treats it like a PlayStation 5 game. Frankly, it loads so fast that there's times when you have to sit during a loading screen and listen to the commentary dialogue of the person talking about the events that's happening, and it's by time even before he starts his first sentence, it's already done loading. It's so fast that you're actually waiting to finish the dialogue so you can get into the game, which is just surprising to me. But overall, the package worked really well. But there were some oddities here and there. One is that when you find guns, there were sometimes custom parts on those guns, and sometimes they weren't perfectly lined up or just started to separate from the guns in certain gun pickups. This was very minor and very just random when it happened, and it wasn't like common, but it was noticeable at times where sometimes guns would just be a jagged mess because it's like all the little assets are moving around and they just locked in position. It's really weird and really hard to explain, but just keep in mind that sometimes you'll come across weird jagged looking guns in terms of picking it up because like the little icons like all messed up. It's not that big of a deal, but it's just noteworthy. There was a few times I did have an NPC enemy walking backwards. It was pretty funny. It was like 2 or 3 times I came across this NPC just walking backwards, turning his head back and forth because he's trying to look in front of him because his body is walking backwards, but he's trying to look forward. It was really funny. It was really weird when you see it happen. It happened like 2 or 3 times on me. Nothing big deal, but it's just, of course, immersion breaking when you see it. As well as that on Metro Last Light, I did, when I was outside on the top ground, I did have a monster that you fight that comes out of the water. I did have one time when a monster was swimming. You're supposed to see him on the surface of the water, and he's supposed to come out on land. Well, he started swimming in the ground, so I could actually see his body swimming in ground. And I was able to luckily still shoot him, but of course that's not what's supposed to happen. And eventually, after a couple shots, he came out of the ground. So that was a little wonky there. I did have one serious lockup in Metro 2033 where I was just running around and next thing you know, the whole game just froze. Thankfully, it was just a simple froze. I was able to hit the PlayStation button, return to the main menu, close out the application, and reboot the game back up, and it just started off with my last checkpoint. And that's pretty much in terms of performance. Nothing else really popped out to me. The only things I could really talk about is going to be about just your experience of the game. First off, if this is going to be your first time playing Metro Last Light or 2033, the game will have multiple games like startups. So you have Spartan and Survivor. That's turned into your like resource management, and then you have a higher difficulty where you have like normal, hardcore, ranger hardcore. I highly recommend, if this is your first time playing this game, either play normal or hardcore. Do not touch ranger or ranger hardcore for your first time, because I don't know if it really makes the game harder. It just removes a lot of HUD information, and I mean straight up HUD information. Like if you don't know how to play, they're not going to give you no tutorials or hints or explanations for anything. So it's just straight up no information. It's just not the best experience for your first time playing it. So if you're going to play it and it's your first time, I highly recommend at least normal or hardcore difficulty first time on both games. As well as that there were a few times it was a little frustrating, since the game is held on by this idea of lack of information or no HUD information. There was a few times that it was really confusing what I needed to do or where I needed to go. Even playing on Ranger, or not Ranger, but hardcore or normal, there's no waypoints, there's no indicators, so you have to just, sometimes even looking at your little to-do list doesn't really contain the most information. So it was a little annoying and frustrating at moments trying to figure out where to go and what to do, both in the tunnels as well as on the surface. But it's way worse on the surface because there's a lot more land to explore. And since the game also has a oxygen mask you gotta wear and you gotta change out the filters, you are also set on a time limit. So not only are you confused and lost, you're actually on a time limit too, because you're running out of oxygen filters. So I can see it being very frustrating for some people, because it was frustrating at times for me. Now the next part is a bit of a spoiler, but it is important for me to probably bring this up. When you play Metro 2033, which is the first one, and Metro Last Light is the second one, the first one has multiple endings. There's a good ending and a bad ending. And now, if you don't know, Metro is based upon a book, and the stories revolves around that book to certain degrees. Now, in the first one, 2033, there's a good ending and bad ending. The canon ending is the bad ending, and Metro Last Light is built upon that bad ending story. So if you beat the first one, Metro 23, with the good ending, and you jump to Metro Last Light, it's going to be very confusing and jarring when they start talking about you choosing the bad ending, even though you just chose the good ending because you just beat 2033. So just keep that in mind. I know it's a bit of a spoiler, but if you're trying to stay true to the original story, the bad ending is the original story. So just keep that in mind. The good ending is like a what if, but not canon. I just want to point that out because I can see it being very confusing and like, what's going on? What are you talking about? As well as that there is like good ending kind of requirements, like you doing special good things, sparing someone's life, or doing certain things, not killing so many people, which is fine. Those are standard good ending progression. But there are a few of them where you're required to like listen to a person's dialogue story moments in the game, which these story moments are fine. You can listen to them if you want to, and if you do, you do get some kind of good ending points, if you will. But if you do die and you have to restart from the last checkpoint, and that checkpoint is just prior to that good conversation that you're supposed to hear to get the good ending points, having to re-listen to those stories over and over and over if you have to keep reloading checkpoint can be a little frustrating in that area. Just keep that in mind. I found that a little annoying as well. As well as that, moving on to checkpoints. Checkpoints can be a little frustrating and unforgiving. Like, you could play long sections or sneaking around, and then if you get caught, then you get checked when you want to reload your checkpoint, or if you die, and you'll get thrown way back. There's no manually saving in this game, so it's just based on checkpoints. So I can see some people getting frustrated on the checkpoint system in this game. As well as that, I did have one time where I was on the surface of land and I was trying to run to a location and it checkpointed, and then I died and it reloaded from that checkpoint. I had a monster apparently chasing me and I didn't know that, and right as I respawned from that checkpoint, I immediately being attacked by a monster. So just be mindful of the checkpoints, and then when you're progressing through the game, if you're going to start running, you got to better keep in mind where those checkpoints are going to be happening and if you have something chasing after you. Next one is that DLC content. If you're confused with what's the DLC content, Metroid 2033 has like a Ranger pack, which includes like extra guns and stuff like that just get added to the game. So it's nothing too special, just more guns and stuff like that. But Metro Last Light has a few extra chapter levels you get to play. And how you're going to access this is in the main menu you have chapters. And I do believe you hit the square button and it will have other missions, like kind of other missions you can do. And that's where you can access the DLC content. It's all there and available to you. I played some of them, I not played them all, but for the most part, I just played some of them. It's just like little small skirmish mission stories you can play. And that's just extra little content after you've beaten the game. Now, I'm going to go into the, my stance with the game. I don't want to go into super deep about the issues with the game, but overall, after playing the game, I did enjoy the game. There were moments the game truly shined. I loved the gameplay, I loved the graphical presentation, as well as the, like I said, stealthing, sneaking around. We don't get a lot of stealth games much anymore, so having this first person sneaking around, taking out enemies was a lot of fun. And then you have the upgrading system where you're upgrading your weaponry, changing out the equipment, scavenging for resources. All tons of fun. Fighting monsters and humans and mutants and stuff like that underground. Top notch. 10 out of 10 right there. But sadly, there are 2 points of the game that basically destroys the series for me. First off is that both the first and second one have a deep involvement with these things called the Dark Ones. And the Dark Ones, in my personal opinion, pull you away from the core aspect of what makes the story and the characters really good, is that the world has fallen into apocalypse. Nuclear war has happened, and humanity has to survive under these underground metro tunnels. And going up to the surface is like a toxic wasteland. It's uninhabitable for humanity. And I really like that topic, but then you start talking about these Dark Ones, which seems so off into the alien almost point. It almost pulls me out of it. I never liked it. Like every single time it was brought up or used in the topics, it never was interesting to me. What was more interesting to me was being inside the tunnels, hearing about people trying to survive, and then you have the Nazis and commies, and then you have the people stuck in the middle between these factions trying to survive what little humanity there is still left. That I greatly enjoyed, fighting the monsters that trying to survive with you, and because I would have preferred if they couldn't survive on land either, because it's just a nuclear wasteland. I would have preferred that more, and that was the next part, the outside part of the game. I really didn't like the going outside. I don't mind maybe occasional going up and outside to see how humanity will not be able to survive outside the tunnels, but these long moments on the outside surface was just boring, uninteresting, and just took away from the core experience of surviving inside the tunnels and seeing humanity struggle and survive in the new world that they have to. And as well as that, like I said, Metro 2033 has a little bit more focus on the tunnels, but it has more focus on the Dark Ones. Well, Metro Last Light has a bit more of the Germans, Nazis, and commies and stuff like that. And maybe a little less about the Dark Ones, but still Dark Ones have a big part of it. And it has a lot more outside surface involvement. To me, the game slowly started dying more and more. Coming back to this game after 10 years, I started realizing why I never was that big of a fan of the game, because what I loved is what I wanted. They started veering away from more, because I think the third game, Metro Exodus, is pretty much nothing but on land surface, which killed the game for me. I never beat it. I played it and I was so bored with the game, I just stopped playing it. And it was kind of like that. I played 2033, I enjoyed that immensely. I just hated the Dark One parts. And then I got to Metro Last Light. I hated all the land surface moments. They were boring, uninteresting, and annoying. But then the little bit of Dark One moment was annoying too. But those few moments where you're underground and hearing people trying to survive, and humanity's how awful they are, and just trying to survive what remnants of humanity, those parts shined so much that it was so much fun. It just made it all that more bitter and sweeter when you realize that that wasn't the focus of the story, the game, the mechanics. It was just all about these Dark Ones and going on the land surface. Apparently everyone was obsessed wanting to be on the land surface. I don't know, that was the worst part to me. To me, I love the tunnels. I love the monsters and fighting trying to survive, and see humanity trying to survive in the tunnels. So that's why I haven't really played Metro Exodus, because I played a little bit of it and I just didn't like the land surface moments of the game. And coming back to this, I liked it, but it also reminded me why I didn't like it. And that's pretty much it. Nothing else is just my personal opinion. The game's graphical presentation is gorgeous. This game looks really good even for its time point when it came out. And I haven't played this game in almost a decade. This is like almost a decade old PlayStation 4 game at this point. Actually, it's even older than that. I'm not entirely sure about this Metro Redux, but I know that the game originally came out on like a PlayStation 3 and like Xbox 360. This game still looks stunningly good. And I remember people talking about how they built this game at such a smaller budget than what is expected. And it still holds up to this day. It's still fun, it's still engaging, and its mechanics really good at trying to sneak it around, changing the light bulb, turning out lights and stuff like that, and taking out people and stuff. And just there's some elements that's really, really good. It's just, man, I guess the books maybe done the story a bit better, but just the dark ones and the outside surface moments really killed the momentum of the game. To me, the best moments are inside the tunnels and seeing humanity try to survive. But at the end of the day, this is still a phenomenal physical copy. It worked the beginning and end with minor little hiccups. It has the DLC content on the disc. It all functioned and worked just fine on my PlayStation 5. Not only that, it loads up so fast and it's steady 60 frames per second. This is a must pick up to add to your shelf in my personal opinion. It almost hasn't aged a day. You may disagree. You may like the land surface. You may like the dark one topic, and that's great. That means this has more value to you. It's just this game definitely has aged really well, personally, in my opinion, and it should be something on your shelf. So again, thank you all so much for watching. I'll provide links down in the description if you're interested in a copy. And my personal opinion is it gets a glowing pass. This is a phenomenal physical copy. As I said, there was a few little hiccups. Sadly, there was a small update, but it wasn't really that big. But overall, it was a perfect package for what I want out of a physical copy. So again, thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next unboxing video. Bye-bye!